For the ninth time this season, Kevin Harvick will do burnouts once again for the fans on the front straightaway at the Bristol Motor Speedway after an incredible 50-lap battle between him and Kyle Busch for the race win. Welcome to MDK Racing Victory Stop as we recap the 2020 Bass Pro Shops NRA night race at Bristol. Welcome to the show. My name is Jett and we're going to recap everything that took place from the elimination race of the round of 16, and it did not disappoint. Well, slightly, but we're gonna get into this race. So let's start off at the beginning of the race. Before we even took the green flag, we already had playoff implications, we specifically with Joe Gibbs Racing, Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, and Denny Hamlin. Hamlin and Kyle Busch being part of the playoffs, although Hamlin has already advanced. They had to start at the rear of the field due to failing pre-race inspection twice. Bubba Wallace and Corey LaJoie also had to go to the back of the field, but for a different situation. So Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, even at the start of the race, right away, they marched their way towards the front, riding on the top lane specifically in order to move themselves to the front of the pack. Meanwhile, Brad Keselowski started on pole, got out into the race lead, but for a little bit there because Kevin Harvick was starting to close in on Keselowski, and with a little help of lap traffic already, by lap 18, Harvick would take the lead. 11 laps after that moment happened, we had our first caution of the day on lap 29. Jimmy Johnson and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. were battling side by side. Johnson off the corner wanted to get underneath a lap car, but ends up hitting Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was not clear. Stenhouse crashes into the inside wall head on, and that would ruin his day. And this is kind of funny, but this is not the first time that both Johnson and Stenhouse have had contact. Last time we were here at Bristol, back in May 31st, Johnson and Stenhouse made contact. Johnson slid up and wrecked Stenhouse. Johnson was not clear, got into the left rear corner panel of Stenhouse. Stenhouse spun, and it ruined his day. So once again, we were at a track at Bristol, and Johnson ruins Stenhouse's day. It was not intentional, obviously, but it was a racing incident, but come on, Jimmy, you gotta watch out for that guy. There's a guy on your inside. Then on pit stops, after that caution came out, Kyle Busch gets stuck behind Daniel Suarez, and he had to start at the back end of the field while Tyler Reddick and Matt DiBenedetto only took two tires, I believe left side tires, to come out 1 and 2. So Kyle Busch started dead last, moved his way up into the mid part of the field, I want to say around 16th place, to then have another issue on pit road to then put him back to the back of the pack. It reminded me a lot of 2018 when Kyle Busch had that incident on lap 1 where he crashed, and the entire day or the entire night was just seeing Kyle Busch trying to rebound from multiple mistakes that were either because of him or he was just caught up in. On the restart, Tyler Reddick started on the inside lane, DiBenedetto up top, and Reddick just got a horrible start. He fell back very quickly. DiBenedetto, who was right at the top lane, got out to the lead with his Penske, I guess you could say, teammates of Keselowski and Logano right behind him in second and third, but not long after, Keselowski would then take over the lead while DiBenedetto settled in for second place. Now, when all that was going on, the main story of that second half of stage 1 was Kyle Busch. I don't know what happened, but he was stupid fast. He started around mid-pack, I want to say 20th place. I don't know how he did this, but with under around 10 laps to go, he was up inside the top 5. I mean, his car was stupid fast. In fact, to show you how fast of a car he had, he was still struggling, by the way, because he said that his car was lacking grip all over. It looked like he was 30 miles an hour faster than everyone else in the field. And he was complaining about his car lacking grip. When I saw that, I was like, okay, the field is screwed. I mean, if Kyle Busch is this fast and is still saying he lacks grip, imagine how fast he would be if he had grip. That worried me as well as the rest of the field. Now, during this time, Chase Elliott would pass Keselowski for the race lead while Kyle Busch was running down everyone else in the field and was even able to get up to around 1 to 2 tenths behind Chase Elliott, but ultimately would not be enough. Chase Elliott would win stage 1. Kyle Busch would settle in for second place. Third, Kevin Harvick. Fourth, Alex Bowman. Fifth, Christopher Bell, a quiet but really good stage 1 for him. Sixth place is Kurt Busch. Seventh is Brad Keselowski. Eighth is William Byron. Ninth, Joe Logano. And Bubba Wallace finishes in the top 10 in stage 1. Jimmy Johnson right behind him in 11th. So stage 2, I'm just going to tell you right away, Kyle Busch won stage 2. I mean, we knew he had a better car than Chase Elliott, and right away he showed that in stage 2, took the lead right away, and was gone. But we're not going to focus on Kyle Busch. We're going to focus on everything that took place behind him. On lap 66, Matt DiBenedetto, he had to pit due to a loose wheel and would go 3 laps down. He would not be, unfortunately, the only playoff driver to have issues. Martin Truex Jr., he pits on pit road. Everything's all normal. But when he comes back out, he said the car just went straight. and went straight right in front of Denny Hamlin, who was racing his own race. Truex came up right in front of Hamlin. Both go into the wall, but Hamlin suffers the worst end of the deal by plowing right into the back end of Truex, a big dent in the front end of Hamlin's car. And that would ultimately end Hamlin's shot any shot at winning the race, which kind of surprising. I mean, these past 3 weeks, we have not seen Hamlin be the Hamlin that we saw in the regular season. Darlington, he had issues. Last weekend at Richmond, he had issues, and this weekend as well. Granted, it wasn't his fault, this Bristol incident, but still. I mean, when you have a driver like Harvick, who's supposed to be your rival, out there winning races left and right while you're struggling in the first 3 races of the playoffs, that is not a good sign. But unfortunately, we would have our first DNF in terms of playoff drivers. William Byron, who entered into this race, I believe, -3 below the cut line to Clint Bowyer. He got caught up in a bizarre accident that we couldn't see because NBC apparently didn't get this footage. But according to Byron, the 51 car Joey Gase stopped in the middle of the straightaway, and William Byron plow drive right into the back end of Christopher Bell because Bell also had to stop, and it created this sort of chain reaction. Byron's car was finished after that incident between Gase and Bell, went straight to the garage, packed it up, and his night was over. On the final lap of stage 2, Ryan Newman then did a bit of a drift in 3 and 4, apparently after making contact with Daniel Suarez, and Newman was not too happy on the radio. He said something along the lines of, he can't pass me, so he had to wreck me. So, yeah, a bit of I'll be honest, that was probably the only time we saw tempers flare in this race. I mean, yeah, you can count Byron and Gase, but yeah, I will be honest, it was kind of a lackluster in terms of action-packed moments, but to be honest, we and the promoters hyped this race up to be like the next coming of Jesus Christ or something like that. I mean, they were hyping up this, that we were going to see crashes, we were going to see tempers flaring, we were going to see bumper to bumper, beating and banging. Hell, even I promoted this, but yeah, it was a good race, but it wasn't action-packed. We're going to get into exactly my thoughts and everything that took place in this race, but yeah, Newman and Suarez, that was about the only time we saw tempers flare in this race. But yeah, like I said, Kyle Busch won the stage. Second place is Kevin Harvick, third Chase Elliott, fourth Joey Logano, fifth Kurt Busch, 6th Alex Bowman, 7th Eric Almirola, 8th Clint Bowyer, 9th Eric Jones, and Austin Dillon in 10th. Also a reminder that Matt DiBenedetto, due to him pitting for a loose wheel, he was able to get back on the lead lap after the stage. So stage 3 is when we started to see the battle for the race lead. Stage 1, it was Chase Elliott, but really the main focus was Kyle Busch. We knew Kyle Busch was going to take over in this race, and he did, dominating stage 2. Stage 3 is when we would see the battle between Harvick and Kyle Busch start to take place. On lap 280, running the high line, a line that Kyle Busch used for a majority of the race, Kevin Harvick was able to pass Kyle Busch for the race lead. Cole Custer, another driver who was trying to advance himself into the playoffs, out of nowhere, again, cameras didn't catch this, but he suffered a massive hole on the front nose of his race car. He also just did not have a really good day. Really, all the drivers that needed good days in order to advance themselves into the round of 12 didn't get that. I mean, they really had from good to not very good nights. Then Brad Keselowski, a driver who led very early on in this race, was also a driver that already locked himself into the round of 12 from winning last weekend at Richmond. He did not have a good night after stage 1. First, he won 1 or 2 laps down at the end of stage 2, and then in stage 3, he reported he lost power steering, fell off the pace tremendously, then got black flagged by NASCAR, and ultimately the team just said, you know what, just bring him to the garage, and so they did, and they basically just ended their night there. It was a very odd night for Keselowski because a lot of us expected Keselowski to be one of the front runners for this race. We know that he won back in May, the day race at Bristol, and we know how good Keselowski runs on the short tracks. Last weekend at Richmond, he dominated that race, so a lot of us expect for him to run well in tonight's race, and it was kind of a shock to see him run this bad. Again, it wasn't really his fault. Again, he lost power steering. What can you do? I mean, you can't really prepare for that. But still, I really expected Keselowski to be part of the race lead in terms of battling maybe with Harvick or Kyle Busch for the win. Another playoff driver in Alex Bowman reported a vibration and he had to come onto pit road to pit for 4 tires, and then he would go 2 laps down. Harvick then puts Denny Hamlin a lap down. I mean, the field was starting to get pretty strung out and a lot of drivers were just getting lapped. I think when Hamlin got lapped, I think it was down to just the top 12 or top 10 of drivers that were still on the lead lap. Now, during this time, around when Harvick put Hamlin a lap down, Kyle Busch started to close in on him. Now, this was due in part due to lap traffic. De Benedetto was the next driver on the lead lap. So, obviously, he's in the playoff hunt. He's trying to keep his playoff hopes alive. He's for sure going to put up a fight, and he did that. Held up Harvick good enough to the point where Kyle Busch was able to close in on Harvick for the lead. However, Kyle's older brother Kurt, he also suffered a loose wheel, or reported a loose wheel. He also had to come onto pit road, and he would also go 2 laps down. A lot of playoff drivers had either vibrations, loose wheels, running into each other's teammates, or run into other drivers. Look, nothing happened in terms of action-packed like the excitement that we, I guess, expected for a Bristol race, but a lot of playoff drivers had issues in this event. Only Harvick, Kyle Busch, Clint Bowyer, maybe Eric Almirola are the only drivers I can think of that didn't have some sort of issue. Okay, so now at the start of stage 3, we're going to go backpedal a little bit. Ryan Blaney, who was in the top 10, he was a driver that needed to win the race in order to advance. Well, at the start of that stage, it looked like that started to be a real possibility. We started to pass 3 or 4 cars right away on the restart. But then as the run started to get longer, Blaney started to fall back far enough to the point where on lap 144, or with 144 laps to go, I should say, he had to come onto pit road a lot earlier than expected because his tires were just gone. And then finally we'll get another caution. 94 laps to go, Austin Dillon side by side with James Davison, but right in front of them is Kevin Harvick, who decides to pit for tires and fuel. Austin Dillon, carrying way too much speed, slides up, smacks James Davison on the left rear, and Davison spins into the outside wall, and that would bring out the caution for, I believe, the 5th time that night. And on pit road, Kevin Harvick and Clint Bowyer, teammates to Stewart Haas Racing, came out 1 and 2. Very quickly though, on the restart, 82 to go. Harvick up top, Bowyer down on the bottom. Kyle Busch right behind Harvick in 3rd. With the outside lane being the preferred lane on the restart, both Harvick and Kyle Busch immediately took off to begin what would then be an incredible battle for the lead. With under 50 laps to go, played heavily due to lap traffic, Kyle Busch was able to get side by side with Kevin Harvick, and Busch would then actually pass Kevin Harvick for the race lead. However, Busch was not out of the woods just yet. Ahead of Kyle Busch, after he passed Kevin Harvick and started to build a lead in front of Kyle Busch, was Joey Logano. And we know how good Logano is, and Logano would put up a fight. He would hold Kyle Busch on the outside lane big enough to the point where Kevin Harvick started to close again on Kyle Busch, and then Harvick would retake the lead from Kyle Busch. And then a very scary incident took place with 23 laps to go. Riding on board with Kyle Busch, right in front of Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell cuts a right front tire, slams to the outside wall, right in front of the leaders. Now, luckily, Harvick and Kyle Busch, they were able to keep going. They did not hit Christopher Bell, and a caution would not come out. Bell would safely get back onto pit road, but that could have been a potentially scary moment. But that last 50 to 23 laps, or after that incident with Christopher Bell with under 23 to go, Kyle Busch was closing and closing and closing, but he could never get there. Busch wanted to run the top lane, but Harvick would then take his line, and it really looked like it was going to come down to a bump and run. And with 2 laps to go, Busch was right on Harvick's bumper, and on the final lap entering turn 3, it looked like Kyle Busch, he tried to pull the bumper on Harvick, but was not able to do it, and Harvick would come off of turn number 4 and win for the 9th time in 2020. For the 59th time, I think, in his career, he would score a NASCAR Cup Series victory, and it would cap off an incredible Stage 3, in my opinion, a really, really fun battle between Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. So now let's take a look at the unofficial results from this race. You can see them to my right, to the left of your screen. So Kevin Harvick wins, Kyle Busch in 2nd place. Eric Jones, impressive run for him in 3rd place, the highest non-playoff driver. But right behind him, rookie Tyler Reddick. What a run for that A-team. Very, very impressive. Top 5 finish for him. In 5th place is Eric Almirola. 6th is his teammate, Clint Bowyer. 7th is Chase Elliott. 8th is Chris Buescher. Ryan Preece, a 9th place finish for him. But to be honest, I'm not that surprised because we know how good Ryan Preece can run at Bristol. But still, a change of pace from the basically just atrocious season that JTG Daughtry has had, especially when taking into consideration Ricky Stenhouse Jr. crashing not even 30 laps into the race. So I guess the team can come away with this race with at least one good finish. Another good run for Michael McDowell. Top 10 finish for him. 11th place is Joe Logano. 12th, Austin Dillon. 13th, Ryan Blaney. 14th is Matt Kenseth. 15th is Kurt Busch. 16th, Alex Bowman. 17th is Jimmy Johnson, who, because of that incident involving Austin Dillon and James Davison, he and numerous other drivers were just pitted and came out 2 laps down. And when that caution came out with Davison and Dillon, it trapped them 2 laps down. So from Johnson on back, they unfortunately were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. They could have pitted 1 lap later and they would have been fine. But unfortunately, that's how racing goes at Bristol. So Johnson would finish 17th. 18th is Ty Dillon. 19th is Matt DiBenedetto. 20th is John Hunter Nemechek. 21st, Denny Hamlin. 22nd, Bubba Wallace. 23rd, Cole Custer. 24th, Mark Jr. 34th, I should say, Brad Keselowski. 38th, William Byron. And dead last is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So let's take a look now at the 4 drivers that have been eliminated from the round of 16. And it's the same 4 drivers that I predicted to be out of the round of 16, and that is William Byron, Cole Custer, Ryan Blaney, and Matt DiBenedetto. And it's tough for Byron, especially when you take a look at the fact that 3 weeks ago, he had a ton of momentum. Winning at Daytona, looked like this was going to be the start of a turnaround these last 10 races, and to be out automatically in the round of 16 is very tough. Ryan Blaney, another driver. Very disappointed to see him out this early when you consider the fact that on how good he was at the start of the season. I had him in the round of 8. If you go back and watch my playoff predictions video, I had him in the round of 8. So to see him knocked down in round 16 is very disappointing to say the least. Cole Custer and Matt DiBenedetto, not that surprised. They really didn't have the speed, I feel like, to be even in the playoffs, but they are. But I knew that, yes, they're in the playoffs, but they're not going to make it at the round of 12. And yeah, tough break for those guys, especially DiBenedetto, because we don't know what his future is like with the Wood brothers. The Wood brothers have until the end of this month, so 2 weeks from now, to decide whether to pick up his 2021 option or not. Okay, so what are my thoughts on this race? Ultimately, I enjoyed this race. It was a good race. It wasn't the best race. It was, not gonna lie, it was kind of dull, especially around stage 2 and the early part of stage 3. It was kind of dull. The final part of stage 3, it saved this race, don't get me wrong, but again, we kind of overhyped this event, I feel like, including myself, because with this being an elimination race, we're going to see some tempers flame, we're going to see sparks fly, we're going to see all this stuff, and we just didn't see that. Maybe I think part of the reason because of the fact that there's no practice, so teams aren't given the opportunity to really dial their cars in. I think that's the reason why you saw the field spread out so much, and you saw so little cars on the lead lap, because they never had time to sort of get their car ready. You go with what you get. If your car sucks, if you bring a car that's not good, well, you're going to be in a major hole. And with no practice or qualifying, I think it kind of hurt the racing product, but that's just my opinion. Ultimately, again, I give this race an 8 out of 10. It was still a fun race, but was not the best race, let's just say, at Bristol in recent memories. But yeah, that's going to conclude this episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. Tell me in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts on this race? Did you like it? Did you not? Up next, the round of 12 opener from Las Vegas. Unfortunately, no fans in attendance, but new round, new drivers that are going to be below the cut line. I think drivers like Eric Almirola, I think, is below the cut line. Austin Dillon right now holds the final spot to begin the round of 12. And it should be a fun 3 races. We got Vegas, Talladega, and then we ended off in Kansas. But until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys next time.